Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is doing well and in good health. My name is Cindy, and I will be the moderator for today's event. After a full week of virtual sessions with European ambassadors and representatives, our event this morning marks the closing session of the Europe Virtual Talks Road to Europe Day 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, this series was held to allow the Indonesian public the opportunity to directly ask questions and communicate with the ambassadors of 10 European countries. Now, we launched our first session on the 1st of May and had virtual talks with different ambassadors and representatives every day leading up to Europe Day, which is celebrated every 9th of May. So to celebrate Europe Day here in Indonesia, FPCI is delighted to work together with the delegation of the European Union in Jakarta in convening the Europe Virtual Talks Road to Europe Day 2021. So once again, I am pleased to welcome you all to the Ask Ambassador Anything session with His Excellency Vincent Piket, Ambassador of the European Union to Indonesia. Hi, Ambassador.
Good morning to you and to everybody.
His Excellency has prepared a special presentation for us and is ready to answer as many questions as he can from the YouTube chat box. So today we are also joined by students from FPCI chapters across Indonesia and the general public who are tuning in live on FPCI's YouTube channel. So thank you for participating and welcome to everybody. Now, before we move further, we would like to encourage all audience to stay tuned until the end of this virtual talk, because we will be having a quiz where you can win fun prizes from the European Union. And we also encourage you to share your moments with us from this virtual talk by tagging @FPCIndo and @Uni_Eropa using the hashtag EU4U and hashtag Europe Day 2021 on your social media posts. We also encourage you to ask the ambassador anything via our YouTube live chat box. Our committee will pick out the best questions and I will be reading them out. So please remember to keep your questions positive, constructive, and concise. Now, let us begin our discussion today by watching a video from the delegation of the European Union in Jakarta.
The European External Action Service, EEAS, is the European Union's diplomatic service. Since 2011, the EEAS carries out the EU's common foreign and security policy to promote peace, prosperity, security, and the interests of Europeans across the globe. The EEAS works under the political guidance of the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, often referred to as HRVP. Josep Borrell assumed the role of HRVP in December 2019. The HRVP role entails making the European Union stronger and its voice heard on the international stage, working closely with the foreign and defence ministries of the member states of the European Union, the other EU institutions, and fostering partnerships with the United Nations and other international organisations. As the EU's chief diplomat, the HRVP steers foreign and security policy on behalf of the European Union and coordinates the EU's foreign policy tools. He also heads the European Defence Agency. All over the world, the European External Action Service, in coordination with other European Union institutions, addresses EU foreign policy priorities, including civilian and military planning and crisis response. The EEAS is also responsible for running the network of 144 EU diplomatic representations. They represent the European Union in the country where they are located to strengthen bilateral relations on the basis of EU principles and interests. More than 8,000 staff work at the headquarters in Brussels and across the globe. In addition, around 5,000 military and civilian staff are deployed in 17 ongoing military or civilian missions and operations worldwide as part of the EU's common security and defence policy. The EU works to prevent and resolve conflicts, to support resilient democracies, to promote human rights and sustainable development, to fight climate change, and to contribute to a rules-based global order. In 2012, the European Union received the Nobel Peace Prize for its role in promoting its core principles: peace, reconciliation, democracy, and human rights. The EU is the world's largest exporter of manufactured goods and services and is itself the biggest export market for around 80 countries. As a global leader in environmental protection, the EU promotes sustainable development through international cooperation, innovation, and clean energy. Upon request of partner countries, electoral observation missions are deployed around the world to strengthen and support democracy. The European Union is the largest donor of development and humanitarian aid, reaching millions of vulnerable people and promoting fundamental rights such as dignity, equality, and solidarity. In 2020, the EU launched Team Europe, an approach to support partner countries in the global fight against COVID-19. In an unprecedented repatriation effort, the EU brought home over 500,000 of its citizens affected by coronavirus travel restrictions across the globe at the beginning of the pandemic.
The European External Action Service is called a service, and for a reason. It is because it's a privilege to serve the European Union and its citizens and to help to create a better world, to work for Europe worldwide.
Every day, thousands of dedicated women and men work effortlessly to promote EU values and interests globally. Together, we work to make the world a better place for all. The European External Action Service, a decade of EU diplomacy.
A very informative video indeed on the EU. So without further ado, I would like to invite Ambassador Vincent Piket to deliver his remarks. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for the introduction, and thank you once again to FPCI for the invitation to speak today at the closing session of the FPCI's program of webinars with ambassadors of the EU and EU member states in Jakarta. You've had 10 ambassadors day after day speaking to the FPCI audience all across Indonesia. I think it's probably a unique situation that we have here, and with what I hope has been a very lively demonstration of, first of all, the EU's commitment to Indonesia in different ways, and with contributions from everybody in the way they can and wish deliver. Secondly, no doubt also a display of the EU's diversity. We are a union, but we are a union of sovereign countries, and so within the common policies that we have in many spheres, we still have recognizable identities of our member states and of the citizens. They are EU citizens, that's official, it's in their passports, but they're also citizens of their own home countries. And I am one example of that. I'm sure that many will say I'm still, despite having worked for 30 years for the EU now, almost, I'm still recognizably Dutch, which is my home country. So I think that's been hopefully a great experience for everybody, and I'm happy to be here with you today. My intro remarks will be extremely brief. I want to keep the floor open for participants. I hope you're well wherever you are in Indonesia. I'm sitting here in my residence in Jakarta. Rather sunny, but there might be a spot of rain nevertheless later on today. Two or three things to start with, just to kick off the discussion. And of course, COVID remains on our mind. That's true for Indonesia, that's true for the EU. We see a decline in new cases in the majority of member states now. still a bit fragile and uncertain. We're nervous about, or not nervous, but concerned about the risk of new variants. We have to be extremely vigilant for that. But there is a positive trend beginning to emerge. And that is, of course, also helped by our vaccination campaign. It started with difficulty early on this year, but we have gotten the difficulties under control, and we have got a massive campaign in motion, which has by now already vaccinated 25% of our adult population, and we expect that we will reach 70% by July. So COVID is on our mind at home, also abroad. We can remain, of course, very, very supportive of third countries in their battle against the pandemic through direct support. You saw the figure there, 40 billion euros, a massive amount for third countries. 200 million of that is for Indonesia. And also support for the COVAX multilateral facility. The EU is the biggest single donor at the moment, and we are happy to be able to support Indonesia also through that window. So COVID is on our mind, but we do hope that in the second part of this year, we have a more stable situation in which people movement can resume with conditions, of course, but that is going to be the new normal, the face masks and the tests and so on. I think we've all got used to them by now. So people-to-people contacts will hopefully be able to resume. And secondly, of course, our economy. We lost GDP in the first quarter of this year, 0.6%. If, however, we get the crisis under control, then we will see the overall GDP bounce up this year by about 3.5% to 4%. That's COVID. The second big thing is no doubt the green recovery. You see it behind me here. On Tuesday this week, we launched with the Bappenas Minister Monoarfa the new publication about that. And this is what we did, and this is what we will continue to do. And with a strong support for Indonesia's recovery, but certainly also aiming to help Indonesia, support Indonesia in reaching the SDGs and reaching the climate goals. So that's a big topic, of course, also linked to the climate summit that will happen in Glasgow, November this year. The EU has put an increased offer on the table. It's not an offer, it's what we will do. It's not conditional. We will do it, minus 55% CO2 by the year 2030 compared to the year 1990. And that is, of course, a challenge, but read my lips, we will deliver. Lastly, of course, the international global security situation. On the one hand, of course, we have to face the various rivalries that we see in regions or globally, and find a effective and positive response to that. The EU is not itself a rival of anybody. We are a partner of everybody with whom we can find a common agenda, can establish common interests, and as far as possible, also common values. Now here, of course, Indonesia will play a big part. We see Indonesia as a partner that is like-minded, with whom we share a lot of values if it comes to human rights and democracy, for instance. It's not a total alignment and agreement, but we are doing pretty well. So expand that is a major task, and also work on our economic relationship through the CEPA free trade negotiations. This week we've been asked several times, when will we conclude? And now we don't know that exactly. Still a tough negotiation job ahead. And but I can tell you this, that the EU is totally committed to bring this to the fastest possible conclusion, because we know that the future CEPA will bring extra growth, extra GDP to your country. It will bring upgrade jobs. It will upgrade standards in your industry, industrial standards, health and safety standards, environmental standards. So, in other words, the future CEPA is part of the green recovery agenda that you see displayed behind me. All right, I will stop there, and you can ask me anything. Cindy has said it has to be constructive and positive, but certainly do not shy away from asking questions that are challenging. So I look forward to that.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your presentation about the EU. So now let's go ahead and dive into our question and answer session. So I'll be taking questions that have been submitted through our YouTube chat box. And I also encourage everyone to ask as many questions as possible, but please remember to state your name and affiliation before submitting your question. Now we have a few lined up already. So our first question, this is a good one to start off our discussion today. This is from Wanda from Bandung. Wanda says, "Dear Ambassador, I know you will probably have a lot of agenda tomorrow for Europe Day, but I'd like to know, what do you usually do to celebrate Europe Day under different circumstances, like outside of COVID?" Thank you.
Well, usually what we used to do was, of course, have the classical National Day reception here in Jakarta. They were pretty good, I'm told. I've never been able to celebrate rather because COVID struck before the first opportunity came up last year for me. But a large and popular reception with a really festive mood. So that's one. The other things, we did a lot of public diplomacy, people-to-people outreach with several events, and most of them physical in the past. Now, what will we do? That's the interesting question. Of course, we look forward to going back next year to a number of physical meetings, including our reception. But we have found that the experience of using digital means also extremely positive, because at the end of the day, Wanda, you sit in Bandung, and Bandung is 3 hours, 2.5 hours away from here, and we can still reach it on a day trip, as I did last week. But it's impossible to reach out to major cities elsewhere in Java or in Sumatra or in Sulawesi, except if you do that through the social media or the Zoom or what have you. So we will certainly continue to do that, and also in the coming year, as well as on Europe Day. We have an interest in bringing the EU closer to the Indonesian citizen. That's why we call this year's celebration EU for You. And the reason is that we want to sensitize a large number of people of the what we do in Indonesia and with Indonesia, because I think there's a positive agenda. This is an agenda that helps your country reach its SDG goals, and will helps and contributes to Indonesia reaching its 2045 goal. We are a win-win partner in our relations with foreign countries, and the ones with Indonesia is not is one example of that. But to reach that, you have to reach out down to the provinces, down to the capitals of the provinces, and down to the companies and around Indonesia. So reach out to the whole of your country as much as possible. Is something we will continue to do.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now, our next question is from Anastasia from Universitas Indonesia. She is asking, based on the EU missions in Indonesia, which agenda do you think will be most prioritized in the post-COVID era?
There are two agendas. The one is the economic one, and the trade, the negotiation of the SEPA free trade deal. Big job, complex, of course, difficult topics on the agenda. We did well so far. Let's start with what we've done. About 50%, let's say, has been covered. But some of the big topics are still ahead of us, relating to topics like the state-owned enterprises, fair competition, the subsidy policies, which need to be fair, and the sustainable development aspect. So quite some work to do, but we're optimistic. So negotiating and reaching out to the companies through Kadin, through the Apendo employers organization is a big task. And the second big task is the green one. Of course, we will be engaging Indonesia a lot in the run-up to the COP summit about climate change fighting climate change in Glasgow in November, but not just engagement in policy terms, political terms, but also try to set up a green agenda of cooperation with Indonesia, where we see a mix taking shape of some technical know-how exchange. How do you do climate action? We have a lot of experience on that. I'm sure that the ambassadors before me this week have spoken about that from their country perspective. A lot of know-how that we can share. And but also we want to bring in the business sector, because we have learned in Europe very, very clearly that we have to set norms and rules and standards and pass laws for certain things and some public money, but the bulk of the work has to be done by the private sector, by innovation, by technological development, and by skills development amongst the workers.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now, speaking on climate change, we have a question from Raka Perdana, who's from Jakarta. He wants to know how the EU supports the countries in ASEAN, especially in supporting environmentally friendly industries in ASEAN. Thank you.
It's a mixture of investment money. We have possibilities of what we call blended finance, and the blend is the grant money. So subsidy, let's say, mixed with a loan from development banks, from private banks sometimes, that will allow, meant for companies to invest in their green standards. So that is one important operational tool. And the second one is between the EU and ASEAN, there's a very active discussion at policy level. Let's recognize that ASEAN and the EU were different, of course, but we also have similar impulses about how we want to do business and how we want to promote convergence and cohesion among our memberships. So sharing know-how about managing the green policies and promoting the green policies in a situation of ASEAN's membership of 10 countries is something we have a lot to share about, and that's what we do.
All right, thank you. Our next question is from Mateo, who is also from Jakarta. He asks, what cooperations are there between the EU and Indonesia regarding higher education, and what other plans might we see in the future?
We have the flagship exchange program, student exchange, teacher exchange program called Erasmus Plus. Per year, about 1,200 scholarships for Indonesian students. If you add to that scholarships from the individual member states, there are about 600. So every year, the EU and EU member states finance about 1,800 Indonesian students going to Europe for a year, most of them, sometimes for 2 years, for postgraduate work. So that is one. The second thing, very happy that the government of Indonesia, the Ministry of Education and Culture, has decided to, as we say, top up the Erasmus scholarship money from the Indonesian side. So it's a sort of co-funding that we have. Fantastic initiative, really, really appreciative of that. And that will increase the number of students, Indonesian scholarship opportunities for as well. I don't know exactly the precise number, but it is significant. Now, what can we do more? I think the fact is that Europe is open for foreign students. We always have remained open, even during COVID. Students, researchers can enter with a test, but there is no prohibition on travel. So we are open, we are accessible. Our higher education is well priced. It's publicly funded, like in Indonesia. So the tuition fees on the continent of Europe are low, and then hence very accessible, even for students that have no scholarship. And lastly, our higher education is of top quality, and you may not find in all of our universities in the Times higher education rankings, but that does not diminish the fact at all that we have here top quality institutions and that offer excellent education. And so we hope, in other words, that we can bring more Indonesian students to Europe for study with us for a year, for 2 years, sometimes for the entire degree, bachelor's or the master's, and that you, on that way, when you come back to Indonesia, you bring some European luggage and a little bit of sympathy for our union, for our countries, back to your country, Indonesia.
All right, thank you, Ambassador. Now we have a lighter question, Ambassador. This is from Fatima from Padang. She would like to ask, how did you first adapt when moving from a temperate region to a tropical region like Indonesia? And what was your first impression on Indonesia?
This is not the first time I live in a tropical country. I was posted, when was it? 2008, 2012 in Malaysia for 4 years. Pretty warm there too. But I'll tell you this: the first time I reached a tropical country must have been in 2005, when I landed in Bangkok for a meeting. I worked in Brussels, but I landed in, and the first time I experienced the hot air made soft with the some humidity, and that clung to your skin coming out of the airplane, cold air in the plane. That was quite an experience, and very. Now I'm used to it. This is totally normal, but that was an experience. And living in a tropical country for a person coming from, well, it's not near the North Pole, but for an Indonesian, it may look like that or feel like that. It is a fantastic experience. I love it here. I love the heat. I love the sitting in my garden and reading my book. So I love the travel in the tropical landscapes and sceneries of your country, and not just the beaches of Bali, of Sumatra and Sulawesi, but also the inland places. And so, yeah, have easily adapted to your tropical climates here.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now I'm going to give you another difficult question. This might be a big debate. This is from Oliver from Jakarta. He says, hello, Ambassador. If you have to choose between Belgian and Swiss chocolate, which one would you take?
Well, absolutely. There's no doubt about it that the Belgian chocolates are so much better. And Alvo, I'm really disappointed about the question, because the question for most citizens doesn't even arise. And of course, kidding. But I have my loyalty to the country where my institution is headquartered, and the Belgian chocolate are absolutely excellent. Moderation is of course something to do, to watch, and because but let me also say that I've come to enjoy the Indonesian chocolates. We support some of your chocolates. I forget now which one it is, but one from Bali, which enjoys the geographic indication recognition from the EU. So we promote that sort of recognition because it's good for your products name familiarity in Europe, in Indonesia, of course, but also in Europe. It brings some extra money for the producers of such a product, including this chocolate. And so we are. I've been on occasion when I launched was at launch events for these products. I've been able to taste your chocolate, and thumbs up.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now we have another interesting question from Dicky from Central Java. He says there are 24 EU official languages, but why is the EU slogan "In Verietat Concordia" in Latin? Is Latin the most spoken language? And thank you, and happy Europe Day.
I'm afraid the knowledge and practical knowledge of Latin has declined a lot in Europe, of course. Now we have our common policy is for the 24 languages, let's say, democracy principle in many ways, that any European citizen should be able to speak and express themselves in the language that they master, and have access to official documents in their own language. It's a democracy principle. It's costly, but yeah, democracy takes a price. So the top civil servant in charge of the interpretation department once told me, yeah, okay, we pay about 1.5 billion euros per year for interpretation and translation in Europe, but if you spread it out over the population of the EU, then it's not more than 2 cups of coffee in the Starbucks. So that's how you need to see it. Yes, it costs money, but it's vitally important to have this facility. It is a right in a way, but there's also something we should ask, and we do ask of citizens, and that is to learn languages. And of course, your own language, but also the language of your neighbor, or so. Standard in the European secondary, if not primary education curricula is the learning of at least one foreign language, and if not more. So that is what helps Europe function.
All right. Thank you, Ambassador. Now our question is from Jambi. This is from Ella. She says, I've been following you since your first ambassadorial lecture, and for me, you are the most engaging ambassador, especially for the youth. Now, I'd love to hear your inspiring words, so please tell me, Ambassador, what do you hope to see in the youth now and for the future?
Thank you, Ella. I'm blushing. What I would like to see for the future in youth in Indonesia, let's say, but also in Europe. These are difficult times for everybody, but especially for young people. Older people like myself, we have more resilience probably built up over the years. Young people are suffering particularly. Isolation at home, where normally what young people do is hang out with your buddies and things like that. That's all impossible. Secondly, young people do face trouble finding their way into the labor market, finding a job, a suitable job. Of course, there's hundreds of jobs available, but a suitable job that matches your aspirations, your education, that is a challenge. It's true here. It's also true in Europe. So as policymaker, we have to work hard for that. Thirdly, so my wish is that the young people stay upbeat, and that they look forward, that they can retain their focus and their determination, and that you speak about your problems if you have them with your fellow young people. Talking about these things is very important. The third thing, and that is, I think, a critical thing at the moment, is fighting disinformation, or rather the search for quality information. We all know the problem. We are swamped with websites, with media, social media, and so on, and it is awfully difficult at times to make sense of all that. And the difficulty is that many people who are influencers on social media take truth and the commitment to truth sometimes rather lightly, and that Sometimes it's because they're lazy. Sometimes it's because they are intentionally spreading misinformation, and for whatever purpose, it's political or economic or self-aggrandizement or whatever. So, and find your way for young people dependent very much on cyberspace, on cyber technology. Finding your way through that is an important task, and my wish is that young people are critical of what they read, that they reflect, that they check, they verify, and that they also debunk things that they read and which are obviously not true. So don't take this lightly, don't take this passively, but react and speak with your colleagues, your friends, your fellow students about things that happen. So that is, I think, a very new sort of challenge that young people have to cope with in their lives. And my wish is that young people stay vigilant.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now bringing the discussion back to climate change, we have a question from Satrio from FPCI UIN Jakarta. He says, what do you think about Indonesia's net zero emission goals? And do you think we can be more ambitious than the government's target?
Thank you. Very good question. It's a strategic question. It's a very political question at the same time. So I express myself a little bit carefully, but also I hope clearly. We do think that that the role of Indonesia in the whole global climate debate is paramount. That in the region of Asia, but particularly in Southeast Asia, its role is even bigger, given your size, your geography, economy, population, and so on. So everybody is watching Indonesia, in other words. Secondly, can Indonesia do more if it comes to climate neutrality? Well, we think Indonesia can, and we think that the current goals are, of course, good, but they do not yet take on board the reality, the new reality that we have seen emerge since the Paris Accord was signed 5 years ago. And the reality is that climate change is happening faster than we had then thought. And that we've got to do something more than we did in 2015 if we want to stop that. Yesterday, I read a little article about the Maldives. Now, tiny nation, but important. 80% of the Maldives will vanish by the year 2030. Maybe it's 2050. Sorry, 2050. Unless something is done drastically, and of course, Maldives is totally vulnerable. It's impotent if it comes to solving this problem on its own. It's in the hands of the global community, because on its own, of course, it can't change the world. So one very specific example. Now, in Indonesia, you will see, of course, your country will not vanish by 80%, but much of your territory is at stake, is at risk. Of your coasts, your estuaries, the climate will change, so you will see changes in the land use, and there will be more extreme weather coming towards Indonesia, etc. So there is a need for more action than we committed to, all of us, in 2015, and we do hope that Indonesia will. Thirdly, I do believe that there is a lot of untapped initiative, a lot of untapped ideas around. I think that the debate about climate action in Indonesia has not fully taken on board the level of initiative, the level of interest that exists among the companies, and of course state-owned companies are one, but particularly the private sector. And I met, I will not reveal names, with a firm based in Indonesia, employing a foreign company, employing 15,000 staff, different locations. A firm that has set itself the goal, of being zero carbon neutral and climate neutral by 2050. This is a private sector firm. What is the problem that this firm meets? The problem is that it is investing in green processes of production, in green packaging, and etc. But competitors are not local competitors, so they lose competitiveness on the market because of being green. Now that is something that I think is totally undesirable, and that definitely shows that the government or the parliament can do something by very simple things, raising standards applicable for all companies that bring the green goals closer. And of course, standards raising, you don't do that overnight. You give companies some time to phase things in, but there's got to be an end goal, and there's got to be a target. And our experience in Europe is that whenever we set a target, whether it was for greening individual products or for emissions of cars, of course, industry was complaining, can't do it. But each and every time, industry delivered. And that means that, for instance, if you talk about emissions, we are now at Euro 6 emission standards for cars, and I'm afraid that Indonesia still allows Euro 2. So we have to push this agenda, and the pushing has to come from politics, from government, from parliament. And but if you push, then the industry will follow. And I think that energy in the private sector exists, and it should be used.
Thank you, Ambassador. Still on climate change, we have a question from Reka from FPCI Chapter UIN Jakarta. He asks, what are the challenges in educating people in the EU, and how can you effectively explain the issue on climate change?
Effectiveness, I don't know exactly, but I can tell you this, that young people in Europe are committed to this goal, and there is a youth movement going on in all countries, pushing governments in the national parliaments, but also at the European level to move forward. So in many ways, this has been mainstreamed into politics. Young people obtain rights through the courts. 3 weeks ago in Germany, there was a ruling by one of the German courts on a case that was filed by young people who claimed, took the government to court, claiming that the climate policy was not ambitious enough, and as a result, the current generation was putting the onus on the future generation for cleaning up the environment and for paying the bill. And the court found in favor of the young people. So and now the government will have to do something to redress that. So I think it shows that young people are quite innovative and creative in what they do. It's not about taking action visibly in public life, but also use the legal means in order to push the debate further. And so that's I think a measure of effectiveness, if you like, that we have been able to educate young people to take their lives, their destinies into their own hands and make a move.
Thank you, Ambassador. Our next question is from Nabila from UNAIR, Surabaya. She says, Ambassador, on this important day, would you please share what are the most important things that EU and Indonesia have done together in the past few years?
Very good question. I think if you look at the positive agenda, then I think the progress we have made on the SEPA is excellent, and we will continue. Secondly, I think we have worked very well at the multilateral level between us, at UN, in New York, in Geneva, and also at the regional multilateral level, ASEAN. I think there's a very close understanding and close cooperation between Indonesia and us on all these levels. The third relates to a crop that is very sensitive for Indonesia, and that is palm oil. We have had a fairly long dispute maybe about that, and we are still not completely out of it. But the very good thing we did was two things. First of all, set up a working group, a joint working group with Indonesia as well as Malaysia to talk about that, to talk about palm oil, sustainability, biofuels, other vegetable oils, etc., deforestation, all of these matters. I think that has been a major achievement. It wasn't easy to reach that, but we did it. And now we need to move on with the discussion in order to build a greater consensus. And so once we do that, I think then will create a wonderful basis for further work in this sector. And secondly, our dispute is still there, but we have agreed that we settle that in the WTO, and with the dispute settlement mechanism there, and we let not happen what happened a little bit, that the dispute colored the whole of the relationship. No, we follow the WTO track and we move on from there. And as far as the EU is concerned, whatever will come out of the WTO panel, we will implement it, and I'm sure so will Indonesia. So that's the way to go about it as responsible partners.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now, maybe our last two questions before we wrap up the question and answer session. The next one is from Sonia from Tangerang. She says, Ambassador, I read one of your interviews and came across one interesting part that you hope to get to know Indonesian society and culture. So what have you learned thus far?
Sonia, first of all, I'm a bit disappointed that you learned only one interesting thing from my interview. But joking aside, what shall I say? I think the most striking thing about, for me, I'm talking as a not so much as a diplomat, but as a citizen, foreign citizen, observing and living here, is the very important role of religion in society, in politics, and in public life. It's Indonesia is a majority Muslim country, 90% thereabouts. So it's normal that this expresses itself in public life, and that the legislation, the public discourse reveals that. At the same time, I have experienced that Indonesians, whichever religion they are, but particularly also the Muslim Indonesians, value diversity, value tolerance. And there is, I found in my discussions, this very strong sense that diversity, that tolerance, that respect for the other is essential for a hallmark of your country, and not just for the national pride sort of thing, for Pancasila, but also for the private lives of people. This is how Indonesians want to live, or the large majority. So preserving that is a key thing, a key task for everybody. It's not just the lawmaker or the parliament or the religious organizations who have to do that. No, it's each citizen. It's a role for everybody. So that, I think, is extremely striking for somebody who comes, who was born and lived in Europe, where where the role of religion is much less pronounced, where the level of religiosity is, I think, in most countries lower than it is here. And so trying to really understand that is for me a very interesting task, and I focus a lot of that in my reading and in meeting people from the different faiths and different associations and so on. And that's extremely, for me as a private person, but also as a diplomat, of course, very important for my mission.
All right, thank you, Ambassador. And now for our last question. This is from Christy from FPCI chapter UT 45 Jakarta. So in celebration of Europe Day, she's asking, as an ambassador for the EU, what is your hope for EU in the future?
My hope is, of course, first get COVID under control. That's obvious. Secondly, to bring back our economy on track. So we have a major recovery effort to do, and so that is, and we need to do it because people are suffering. People are unemployed. Not everybody, but there is more unemployment. People have lost part of their income, and people want to get back a little bit of their freedom. to move and to go take their holiday and have be able to do your booking.com thing for your hotel or bed and breakfast on many nice places inside Europe or beyond. So that is key. Thirdly, more political, I think, is social coherence. Just this weekend, just yesterday, summit of all the EU leaders about that. It is a fact that some groups in society in Europe feel they have lost out. Many took a hit already in 2008 and 9, financial crisis. And now the COVID crisis has added to that. So we have to work for those people to make them feel involved, bring them back into the mainstream, invest a lot in training, retraining, reskilling, particularly at the vocational level, and to give them again a sense of perspective for themselves, for their families, for a normal life that a normal citizen deserves. And so that, I think, is the big task that we should work on next to the economic side of the recovery. So that's I would say where I would say the EU should focus in the coming year, let's say.
All right, thank you, Ambassador. Now, I see many questions still lined up, but unfortunately, due to time constraints, we can't take them all. But I'd like to give a big thank you to Ambassador Vincent Piket for answering all of our questions today. And of course, to all the participants for your questions. It was a very insightful discussion, and I believe that all of us here have learned a lot today about Europe and especially the EU. Now, Ambassador Piket, we hope you can stay for a few more minutes as FPCI has prepared a special video for you and the European ambassadors in celebration of Europe Day. So without further ado, please enjoy.
Curious. It gives you a tremendous sense of freedom and I think of security, to know that you live next door to a neighbor whom you can trust and who trusts you, and because of that trust the citizens benefit. And I think that is for me a very personal sense of satisfaction, and that's why I'm happy to be.
Having said that, Europe for us Italians means respect of diversity, peace and stability.
You have to remember that Europe had 2 world wars in the last century, the First World War and the Second one. And we felt that it was time that Europeans come together and solve their problems, their difficulties through a union, economic union, but also which is fighting against climate change, against traffics, a Europe which is bringing us together.
So this is common market, and one of the biggest feature of common market, you should know, is the free movement of people. No borders, no passports, no necessity to apply for any permits for work. You can Polish citizen can go to any country of the European Union and start working in that country. Any European citizens can go to Poland and start working in Poland. So this is one of the very big achievement of the European Union. We are very, very happy of being within that framework. And
so I will just finish saying that indeed Europe Day is a big celebration in Romania, where authorities and European officials, they meet with the public and discuss all the main topics on the European agenda. Now the biggest topic being this recovery
of something which is quite unique. EU is very unique by many achievements, most importantly peace. Imagine that from the Second World War that this part of the world lives in peace and harmony as a whole. And also imagine the population. Imagine that one of the biggest trade markets in the world.
Raise the issues which are important to us. But for us, the EU is still a very, very strong fundament and a very strong union, which we are proud members of. And we do strongly believe in a fair EU and in a good partnership in that.
Is absolutely fascinating. And again, I think both politically and economically and in social terms, we are very happy that we are having the European Union, and I'm very, very, very proud of that.
For us, the European Union has been a way to re-establish Germany in the family of civilized and free nations. Without the European Union, this would have been maybe not impossible, but it would have been so much more difficult. And that is why Germany, I think more than any country in Europe, is grateful and committed to the European Union. And this is why we also, as Germans, feel a very special commitment to Europe Day.
Europe to me means a very beautiful place to visit, but also a very dynamic and diverse continent. Europe to me means a champion of multilateralism and champion of the very urgent climate action.
My name is Ayu Suci from Universitas Udayana, and for me, Europe is the reason why I keep working hard, because I work really hard so that someday I can experience firsthand borderless travel around Europe and living in its amazing community.
Hi, my name is Osvaldo from Merauke, Papua. To me, Europe is an envoy of change and development.
Hello, I'm Aruda from FPCI Chapter University of Muhammadiyah Malang. Europe for me is a depiction of the successful integration of a region with a rich history of civilization.
Hi, I'm Nabila from FPCI Chapter Brawijaya. So for me, Europe is a continent where history was made and the future will be written.
Hi, my name is Anissa Peliani from FPCI Chapter Unhas. Europe for me is an inspiration of the prime advocator for human rights, democracy, and freedom.
Europe is a way or another a good model for economic and political development countries of the world.
Europe for me is a land of innovation and an inspirational model of a solid and strong community.
Hello everyone, my name is Rizky Liberty Syajaya from FPCI Chapter Binus University. For me, Europe is the unity of key actors and spearheads in developing a better world.
Hi, my name is Zeta. I'm from FPCI Chapter Rutan 45 Jakarta. Europe means to me unity, together we're stronger, peace, solidarity.
Hi everyone, my name is Gerald. I'm from FPCI Chapter Erlangga. So for me, Europe is the most stunning continent ever.
Hello, my name is Ryan Shafa and I'm from FPCI Universitas Islam Indonesia. Europe for me is a land of great universities. So great that I want to go there and gain a lot of knowledge.
Hello, my name is Rata Shalfa and I am from FPCI Chapter UPN Veteran Jakarta. Europe to me is a beautiful yet diverse place with so many cultures to learn and also so many places to visit. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Rizka from FPCI Chapter Universitas Gadjah Mada. And for me, Europe is a land of opportunities, both academic and non-academically.
Hello, I'm Jenny from FPCI UPH. I think Europe is really interesting in their taste of music and fashion, and I saw them as never goes out of style. That's Europe.
Hello, my name is Satrio from FPCI Chapter Win Jakarta. For me, Europe is the center of innovation and technology for the world.
Happy Europe Day 2021. Happy Europe Day 2021.
We hope everyone enjoyed that recap video of the virtual talks we had and what Europe means to us. So it's been a great week for us here at FPCI, and it was a pleasure to meet and converse with the European ambassadors. So before we move on, we are delighted to welcome the founder and chairman of Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia to deliver a few closing remarks. But the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Vincent, for your wonderful talk just now. I want to thank all the FPCI staff who has worked all week to help organize this Europe Day event. You've done a really amazing job with your dedication and hard work. So thank you very much. And also to all the students who have participated in this, really thank you for all your questions and for your curiosity and patience and also energy and spirit. And to our partner, Vincent, and all European Union ambassadors, I think we've done diplomatic innovation today. Because I think this has not been done by any embassy in Indonesia, a place where to celebrate a big international event, the ambassadors of those countries talk directly with the students from all over Indonesia. And it's not a lecture, it's not a heavy lecture, it's really a conversation, nice, light, but also informative and enlightening conversation. So this is really, in my view, a diplomatic innovation, and we are very proud to be part of it. I also want to join all others who have wished the European Union Europe Day all this week, and I think it's quite clear that Europe is really an amazing place to be, amazing region, and there's just so diverse, so many potentials, so much achievement, so much history. And if you ask any leader early in the 20th century or in the previous century, would the Europe that you have today, the 27 countries Europe, uniting and integrating, would that be possible? They all would laugh, I'm sure, because that's so far away a fantasy, a political and economic and diplomatic fantasy that was in fact unimaginable at the earlier of the 20th century, where they had World War I. Yeah. So to be where Europe is today is really an amazing historic feat for that particular region. And I think Europe is the greatest experiment in regional integration, in regional that the world has ever seen. You have great challenges. Vincent has outlined what are the political, economic, social, cultural and even psychological challenges facing the peoples and the countries in Europe. But you are out there taking risks and pushing the boundaries. So well done. And we wish you all the best, because we know in the 21st century, Europe will still be out there. And in fact, the world really needs Europe in the 21st century. We need Europe for your unflinching commitment to multilateralism. And the world now is just recovering from a period of sickness in multilateralism. And we need Europe to be a force for world peace and for economic progress throughout the world. And what Europe means to Indonesia
There might
today
be
is
some.
what Europe today, when we look at Europe, we see opportunity, we see growth, we see partnership. We see our futures are bound together, and so on and so on. So it's really going to be an exciting time between Indonesia and Europe. And I think what we saw this week was a great showcase of the partnership and the potentials for the future. One last note I want to say is, as all of you know, this year FPCI is really pushing hard on the biggest agenda of all, which is the climate agenda. And our ambition is really to shift public opinion and government position on climate change, which so far has been not satisfactory. Many other countries have moved progressively, not just Western countries, but non-Western countries, China, Korea, South Africa, and Costa Rica, even. Countries like Bhutan, Colombia, Argentina, all these countries are moving forward with very ambitious climate agenda to reduce emission, because we only have one shot. We only have the next 30 years before the climate is irreparable, tidak bisa dibetulkan lagi, and this is your time. This will affect you directly, because by the time you get to be 40 years old or 50 years old and have families and kids, you will live in that climate. And unfortunately, in Indonesia, the political elite doesn't understand that a hot world awaits us in the very near future, which is 20, 30 years from now. They don't get it yet, right? So I ask for your help to support this campaign, to mobilize public opinion and government position to shift, because our ambition is to create a net zero emission Indonesia by 2050. And I'm so glad that just yesterday, PLN has announced that they have set 2045 as the target. I think 2045 or 2050 as the net zero emission target. This is huge, but we are waiting for the environment minister and the government as a whole to announce that as well, not just PLN, right? And this is where Europe is important, because Europe leads on climate change. Europe leads on targets. Europe leads on technology. Europe leads on diplomatic moves. Europe leads on multilateral agenda on climate change, and hopefully Europe will also help on the questions of financing and all the other important issues that can help Indonesia and partner with Indonesia to achieve this. So I want to close with that statistics, but that you will be around, and we are fighting for your world, right? This will be the world you will live and work in. So fight for it. Yeah, fight for it. Now, climate change is the mother of all problems, and we got to fight it and resolve it today, not 20 years from now, not in 2070, but today. So with that, thank you again, Vincent, and all friends at EU delegation and all European embassies in Jakarta for your partnership. And we wish you all the best for Europe. And thank you for your friendship and love and partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Dino. Now, before we move on, Ambassador Piket, I'll hand the floor back over to you if you would like to deliver any closing statements or remarks.
Thank you very much, and I'll be very brief. I've had the floor for a full hour. So, but thank you, first of all, Dino, for these very kind remarks and political remarks at the same time. It's the climate is something that is a passion of yours, and it's the same for the EU and for me personally. So we will certainly look forward to further cooperating with you on that. Let me, of course, say thank you to all the EU ambassadors for having participated. We will meet, the EU ambassadors will meet again, a monthly meeting coming Tuesday, and we will discuss this, and I will certainly mention to them the wonderful video that you have produced with their statements, and say I'm sure that you can share it with them as well. We will. But let me also thank the community of FPCI, the many young people, internationally minded, international studies experts throughout this vast nation, and you had a wonderful lineup in the video of statements about Europe, and I was really touched by what was said by many of you. Very different things, and I like the lady who talked about the fashion and taste, and that was a really good one. So thank you for your commitment and so your interest throughout these 10 sessions we've had, and I hope we can continue and bring in more people from all over the country, all the way from Aceh down to Papua, and from the north to the south. So thank you to the community. And then the FPCI team, you're a great set of people, really professional, young, dynamic professionals, particularly Cindy and Ray, who have been presenting these seminars, many of them, but also the others. I would like to thank you, and we will continue there with you. Now, so finally, tomorrow, 9th of May, at 8 o'clock. Is the 8 o'clock a.m. Is the European anthem and the Indonesian anthem, and there's a video with greetings from all the foreign minister and with all the ambassadors. So it will be rerun throughout the day. So you will have the chance to see it. Whereby I mean to say that this series is over, but we will continue, certainly from myself and my colleagues of the EU delegation, also the EU's ambassador to ASEAN. We look forward to our further work together, and I wish likewise everybody, Dino, team, and community a happy Europe Day. And so long, stay healthy, and see you soon.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. It was a pleasure having you today, and we'll be moving on with the quiz for the audience. So I know you have another agenda after this, so you're welcome to leave. But happy Europe Day, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Certainly.
All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, as we've mentioned, we have prepared a fun quiz for the audience today. And if you answer the questions correctly and quickly, you will be receiving a goodie bag with cool gifts and prizes. So for our quiz today, we will be using the Kahoot platform. Now, it's very easy, so let me just read out the instructions before we start. Firstly, please use a second screen or second device and do not close your YouTube tab. So to join the game, you can open another tab and go to www.kahoot.it. Make sure that's IT, not ID. And then you can enter the game pin, which is displayed on your screen. The game pin for today's game is 293-1424. Then for the nickname, you can please use your order confirmation number as the nickname. The order confirmation number can be found on your ticket in the email sent to you by Eventbrite. Now, we highly suggest focusing your attention on the quiz instead of the YouTube live stream, as there might be a slight delay on YouTube. And at the end of the Kahoot quiz, there will be 3 winners that will get prizes from the European Union. So if you are one of the winners, make sure to take a screenshot as proof of winning. And then lastly, please contact our staff immediately after the quiz to claim your prizes. So you can send a direct message to @FPCIndo on Instagram, providing your personal details and the screenshot of your Kahoot. Now we will give some time to wait for more players. Again, you can go to Kahoot, www.kahoot.it, and join the game by using the game pin 293-1424. And also make sure to use the order confirmation number from your email inbox as your nickname. We're just waiting for a few more players before we start. Again, that's 293-1424 at kahoot.it. And again, please do use your order confirmation number that can be found in your email inbox. I think we can begin at 40. All right. So our first question: who is the current EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy? Is it Federica Mogherini? Is it Josep Borrell? Is it Angela Merkel? Or is it Ursula von der Leyen? And the correct answer is Josep Borrell. Our second question: when is the goal for the EU to be climate neutral? Is it 2040, 2050, 2060, or 2070? Make sure to answer as quickly as possible so you can get the most points. And the correct answer is 2050. Next question: who wrote the music of the EU anthem, Ode to Joy? Was it Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, or Chopin? And the correct answer is Ludwig van Beethoven. We're halfway there. The next question is: the EU received one of the world's most prestigious prizes in 2012. What was it? Was it the Nobel Peace Prize, the Pulitzer Prize, the Golden Globe, or the Academy Award? 8 seconds left. The answer is the Nobel Peace Prize. The next question: what is the EU scholarship program called? Is it the Fulbright Scholarship, the Chevening Award, the Erasmus Scholarship, or the Nieman Fellowship? Again, this was discussed in our presentation by the ambassador, so make sure you were listening so you can answer this correctly. And the answer is the Erasmus Scholarship. The sixth question: this is how many Indonesians have received the Erasmus Scholarship since 2004? Is it 100, 300, 500, or more than 1,000? 5 seconds left. And the answer is more than 1,000. Second to last question. In total, how many EU and EU member states ambassadors are there in Jakarta? Is it 9, 12, 15, or 22? Five seconds left. And the answer is 22. There are 22 EU ambassadors in Jakarta. And the last question, the EU has an elephant mascot in Tangkahan in Sumatra. What is the name of the elephant? Is it Eropa, Elephanta, Maximus Sumatranus, or Gading? Again, this is the last question, so make sure to answer this as quickly as you can so you can get the most points. And the answer is Eropa. So here are the winners. We have come to the end of the quiz. Congratulations to all the winners. So again, as a reminder, please take a screenshot of this and then contact us via Instagram DM to claim your prizes. And kindly provide us with your name, your address, your phone number, as well as the screenshot of your Kahoot for verification purposes. And now we finally have come to the end of our session today. So again, I want to thank Ambassador Vincent Piket for his valuable time. And on behalf of FPCI, I would also like to thank all the embassies who have participated in this virtual talk series, all of the audience on YouTube who has tuned in today, and of course, our sincerest gratitude to the delegation of the European Union to Indonesia. Thank you, and we hope to see you at our future events. Happy Europe Day.